Hey friends, this is the Mrs. Wolfie from our Half Acre Homestead. I'm going to try a new recipe today. I'm going to make an Amish apple pot pie. Now, because I'm following a recipe that a friend sent me, I am not going to do my regular pastry. I'm going to do it their way. Now, I need some cold water. Okay, for this recipe, you're going to need a heavy saucepan with a good tight fitting lid. This is not the lid that comes with this pot. The lid that comes with this pot has a vent hole in it, and I don't want a vent hole. And I've buttered this. So we're going to need that. You're going to need 6 to 7 nice size apples. You're going to need a 1/4 cup of lard, 2 cups of flour sifted, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 3/4 of a cup of sugar. I have a cup of unpacked brown sugar, 7 to 8 tablespoons of cold water, cinnamon. I need cinnamon. Okay, so here's our flour, and I'm not going to do my butter pastry because, like I said, this is somebody else's recipe, and I'm not going to mess with it. I've never made it before, so I'm just going to follow instructions. I don't know, folks, I get in trouble when I follow instructions. And we're just going to cut the lard. My mother used to do this with 2 knives. These fancy contraptions. Alrighty. I tell you, folks, it was -32 a week ago, and now it's all the snow's melting and it's foggy and rainy. I don't know. Okay, so we're going to start by putting just trickling a little bit of cold water and mixing this in with a fork, just until the dough holds together. All right, I think that's about right. Now I'm just going to set this aside and let it rest for a minute and get my apples ready. Now, if you ever use one of these contraptions, this is something I learned in the bakery. Don't put your apple on the prongs of a peeler, blossom side down. You put the prongs in the stem side. That's the strongest part of the apple. Apple pot pie. Apple pot pie. All right. I'm just going to take my knife here, and I'm just going to cut through these so that I have slices of apple. I'm going to do one more apple and leave the other one for Papa's lunch tomorrow, because I have a feeling the apple pot pie won't make it to his lunch. All right, I will be right back. I've got to take all these peels and put them in the pig pot for tomorrow, and I'll clean up and we'll start with the pastry and the layering. Alrighty, now what we're going to do, I lost my knife, didn't I? Is we're going to take part of our pastry and we're going to roll it out. Or part of this flour is whole wheat, so I don't know if it's going to work as good, but we'll see. And we're supposed to cut these in 2-inch squares. Now we're going to take our heavy sauce pot, and we're going to put a layer of these on the bottom. Just like this. Now, I just want to make sure the bottom is really well covered, only because it is the bottom. Alrighty, so that's what I've got in there. Now I'm going to put a layer of apples. Alright, there's our layer of apples. And we're just going to sprinkle a generous amount of the sugar, some cinnamon, Just a sprinkle of cinnamon on top of there. And then we're going to repeat the process with the layers, or the squares, of pastry. Well, I must have done something right because I have the exact amount. Now what we're going to do is we're going to dot the top with butter. There. We've dotted the top with butter. We're going to cover this tightly. And then when it comes time to make this dessert, I'll meet you at the stove. But I've got to clean up and get supper started, alrighty? So what I've got here is a nice loin roast from our last pig. It's not huge, but it'll do the three of us. Isn't that lovely? Look at that. We're just going to lay that right in there. And first, we're going to coat it with, of course, some fresh ground pepper. And just a wee bit, like a half a teaspoon of coarse salt. And I almost forgot. Homemade unsweetened applesauce right down the center. Alrighty, so we've put a nice, inch thick or inch wide to 2 inch wide, a half an inch thick slide of homemade unsweetened applesauce, and I'm just going to slice up my last sweet potato. Now, I was going to do it almost like scallop potatoes slices, but I realized that that roast will probably cook faster than the sweet potato if I do that. So, of course, I'm going to dice them. Oh, frig-a-dig. I broke it. Oh yeah, that ain't coming back. Okay, change plans. Guess I'm hand dicing. Word to the wise, folks. Save it for onions and carrots. Don't do turnips and sweet potatoes. Turnips was the last thing that broke my last one, was turnips. And I am just going to scatter these. You want these fairly small, fairly thin, to cook along with the roast. Alright, we'll be back when I have this all organized. Alrighty. We have now our lightly buttered casserole dish with our pork loin that's been covered in salt and pepper, a little bit of unsweetened applesauce, surrounded by sweet potatoes. Now, if you've ever read the Laura Ingalls Wilder books, one thing that was Almanzo Wilder's favorite food as he was growing up was fried apples and onions. And I've tried it and it goes wonderful with pork. So why would I not? Let's just spread our applesauce, make a little, we'll grate the top of our applesauce here and hope that the onions will stick. And we're just going to sprinkle some diced green onion on top for flavor, aroma, and color. Folks, I have no idea what to call this, but if ever there was a winning combination, it was sweet potato, pork loin, onions, applesauce, and you guessed it, a little bit of brown sugar. Now, I used less than a cup of unpacked brown sugar in the apple pot pie. So this, we're talking no more than, say, a tablespoon. And And we're just going to sprinkle this on that there sweet potato. I love me sweet potato. And just a wee tiny sprinkle on top of the onions and applesauce. And then we're going to take just a little bit of butter, and I mean a tiny bit of butter. Just enough, because this is a very lean piece of pork, but there is a little bit of fat on it. Okay, so I'm doing a one-pot wonder. Yeah, I know, folks. But there's going to be a side vegetable, like green beans or something, right? So it's not technically a one-pot wonder. Now let's just hope that this cooks up as nice as I hope it does. Isn't that pretty? I'm winging this one. All right, let's get our pork loin dinner in the oven. Okay, now let's work on dessert. We're supposed to take, this is our apple pot pie, and we're supposed to take 1 cup of boiling water or half fill the saucepan. So let's just see. And we're supposed to pour this right over top of this, and then bring it up to a boil. Cover it tightly, bring it up to a boil, and as soon as this comes to a boil, we turn it down to minimum, and after 25 to 35 minutes, that should be dessert. I've told Papa to bring home some ice cream. Get your knee down at the table, please. All right, folks, here it is. We don't know what to call it. Ooh. Just a minute, you cheese and crackers. Oh. Now, why don't you carve up that beautiful loin, and I will give us some sweet potatoes. Do not touch that, sweetheart. It's really, really hot. No cheese. You have meat, you have vegetables. If you don't like the sweet potatoes, that's not my problem, but you're not eating another protein.
I just want something else that's food.
I said no.
I don't like sweet potatoes, and you don't really...
Okay, guys, can we get through dinner without this?
I guess so. Is this bread done?
Yes, and I'm going to slice it at the table, so just hold your ass. Let me get this out of the way, please.
Where's the other steak knife, girl? The red one.
I don't think so, buddy. You want some bread and butter? That is, I don't know what to call it. It's got applesauce and green onions, a little bit of brown sugar, sweet potatoes.
Very good.
I'll try and think up a name for this before I upload the video. Okay, Papa's getting the ice cream out. Traditionally, apparently, you have this with heavy cream. This is the boiled apple pie. Oh, that's cool. Look at that.
Looks a little wet.
Give me your plate for her.
Looks less like a pie, though.
I think it's kind of like a dumpling. I bet you I could make that at the camp, eh?
Yeah.
That's really good. It's like a dumpling.
There you go.
Well, thumbs up all around. New recipe, an old Amish recipe, and empty plates everywhere. Gotta like it. Bye-bye.